church family, and anybody that's tuning into this. I hope you all are doing well, and I would like to personally welcome you to today's Heart to Home devotional. Today's devotional is titled Brotherhood and Sisterhood. So I'd like to read a couple of verses out of Hebrews chapter 10, and we're going to look at verses 24 and 25. And in that we read, "And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." So when you look at the book of Hebrews, it is meant to encourage Christians to not give up on their faith. In fact, it is written so when persecution and fear put pressure on us as believers, our response should be to hold fast to the truth. It is our faith that ought to lend its hand to us in those times of need. Kind of like the hand of Jesus to Peter in the boat when he stepped out into the water in faith. So our faith, it's not a blind faith. Quite on the contrary, most of the content you can find in Hebrews is evidence supporting the fact that Jesus Christ is in fact God's ultimate plan for our salvation. Our own personal faith is crucial to that endurance, which is why the writer has so often warned readers to not be lazy or careless about their spiritual growth. So how do we grow spiritually? Well, one way is gathering with one another, and I don't just mean on Wednesdays and or Sundays. You see, Christianity is not a faith that God intended to be lived out alone. Encouraging others and also being encouraged by others are both central to the life of us as believers and to an obedient believer. So what is an obedient believer? What the Word has shown me, it's one who seeks the Lord in all that they do. And not only for themselves, but for the others that the Lord puts in our path. When you're alone and with your Bible, that is a time for you and the Lord to grow closer, and it allows Him to reveal His truths to you. We also read in Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, "As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend." It is one of my favorite verses. You see, we as brothers and sisters are called to fellowship with one another. A common method to sharpen steel or iron is to use a similar piece of metal. And when those two metals scrape against each other, both pieces are shaped and rough spots are removed. Similarly, two people can interact and help refine each other when they are in the presence of their brothers and sisters. We just had a men's outing at Victory Ranch in Moreno Valley, and it was quite amazing. We had a guest speaker, Justo Lucero from Calvary Chapel Nuevo, and his message was around King David and King Saul. And the main point was, do you have a heart for the Lord like David, or a worldly desire such as Saul? Lucero then explained the importance of having, 2 or 3 brothers that we can count on, not only for prayer, but for accountability. And having accountability is something that is extremely important to any Christian walk. We've seen many examples in the Bible where people have received the gospel only to turn it into something that it's not. And we can all do that too, can't we? I mean, if we just look at the mistakes that we make on a daily basis, we see how, we're just prone to mistakes. We're sinners. And so when brothers and sisters see each other backsliding, you ought to go to that person in love and remind them of the gospel message and the life that God has called believers to live. You see, as I said, we all make mistakes, and we all fall into some kind of sin at some point in our lives. But when you surround yourselves with like-minded people, God is able to speak to you through them and get a hold of you. On the flip side, if someone approaches you about, some sin that you may be living in, remember, they are coming to you because they love you. It's because it's what we are called to do with one another. We are called to sharpen one another like we read in Proverbs. And remember, just like steel, when scraped against one another, it can shape them, and it can remove those rough spots, aka those sins. So take advantage of the opportunities to gather with one another and allow Jesus Christ to enter those encounters, and you will see him work not only in your life, but those lives around you. So as always, it's a pleasure to bring you all today's Heart to Home devotional, and I pray that you are blessed in his message. You can check the description for today's song, and also, again, like I always say, just keep sharing the word, keep sharing these messages, send it to a friend, and let the Lord just put that on your heart and just be faithful in doing doing those things. So as always, be bold in sharing your love for Jesus to a very lost world. Thanks again. I love you all, and I will see you next time.